Hey all, welcome back to the next video. In this video, we're going to be looking at light painting a car interior. A couple weeks back, I had photographed the Tesla Model S Plaid, and I did use this little tool here to light paint, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this before we take a look at the photos. Now, this tool here, it's cheap. I think it was around $35 Canadian that I had purchased this for. Got it on Amazon, but it is, I think the company is called Ulanzi. Not sure about the pronunciation on that, but this tool here, it's nice, it's small, it's cheap, and it's easy to kind of carry around with you. So it allows you to get into different spaces within the interior. It does have some novelty type of features, like it does have some flashing features, some different colors and so on. That's not necessarily what I bought this for. What I wanted to buy it for was a constant light source that I could light paint when I do not have my ice light and I want to do some exteriors. But in this particular video, I did use it for the interior. But you can move around in the car and move the light where you want it. But what I had done for this particular shoot is I did use a monopod. Mounting this on the monopod would allow me to get into tighter spots that I necessarily physically could not get in. It is small, it is cheap, and allows you to get in some spots. So let's take a look at the photo and see some of the layers and how I created this interior shot of the Tesla Model S Plaid. All right, so we have the photo here. We're gonna go through the layers, give you an idea of what I did with each layer and what's included with each layer as well. So we'll turn all these off, will be the first thing we'll do here. And let's turn these off as well. So what we're gonna start with is the interior. Now, the first thing, of course, we'll start with the background. This is the exposure for the background. When I was light painting, this was just simply without any light at all. Wanted to be sure I covered kind of the background, make sure I have a nice base that I could work with. The second one, for looking here, now this is the seat, so I did have the light on the monopod. I was in through the passenger door, and what I did is simply just extend the monopod, and then I moved in and had it pointed kind of down and did a little rotation with it to make sure that I lit up the seats, and there's a little bit of the dash as well, but I'll get another exposure for the dash. Next one we have here is the headliner, and I'll kind of click this on and off. This was the same idea, but what I did is I had the light pointed up. So this, of course, is to get the interior. This is a detail, as you can see, with it pretty dark. It's a detail I wanted to get because of the Alcantara kind of finish that's with this headliner. Third, we have the wheel. This is the steering wheel. This is a separate exposure, and this steering wheel was just in case when I was lighting the inside, I didn't get enough of the light on the steering wheel that I wanted. I wanted to get an additional exposure with the light on the steering wheel. And this is the dash. Now, the dash here, again, on and off, you're gonna see what that did. It did light up kind of not only this right portion of the dash, but also a little bit underneath. So if we're looking under here, under where the wheel is and under the steering column, you're gonna see it did light it up a little bit there. So that's good because also in terms of the light, I do have a little light that came in underneath the screen and right here by the wireless chargers of the car itself. So again, on and off. And the final one, now this is the top dash, and before I click this on, how I did this is I didn't light inside the car, I actually lit outside. So I had the small light and I had it on the monopod, but I just moved it around here and pointed it straight down to get this top portion of the dash. So as you see, it did pick up quite a bit of good details that I used for the final photo, not only for this dash portion here on the right. You'll do see it's kind of on top of the display, but also the steering column. So again, on and off, take a look at that. Getting some light on the steering column and on the side door here really helped in terms of having that light. So words of advice, of course, it's really take as many shots as possible and make sure that you have a list of the exposures you want to get, and make sure you do have the light, and each portion of the car is lit. Because of course you don't have them, you can't really use them. There's nothing to use and there's nothing really to fill in terms of light. So make sure you have every portion lit that you're going to use for the final photo. Now we'll look at some other kind of layers here in terms of some of the effects and some of the things I added to the photo. So in terms of the lighting already, it looks pretty good. The interior is pretty much lit up the way I want, but there's a couple things that either did not light or it lit too much, and I wanted to take that out. So we'll go through and I'll show you a couple of those. The first is really this light that's in the back of the seat here. You're gonna see it's kind of a light that's coming in through the back door and the back window. I didn't really like that, but I do like the light that's reflecting on the back of the driver's seat. So if we turn this on and off, so what I did here is I used the pen tool and I traced along, and I just of course filled this in with pretty much black, I think. I don't know if I painted this black or I just sampled from a color here, but I really like how the effect was left here with the light on the back of the driver's seat. Second one here is windows. Now this is a pretty big one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to turn the selection on as well that I made. And what I wanted to do is kind of take out this background. It's not really a very flattering background. It's a bunch of brand new tires. I really didn't like it at all, but I knew going into the photo that it was something I was going to take out. So what I wanted to do is make a selection around the windows, both the side window as well as the windshield, and simply fill that in with black, and then use kind of a lighting effect, which simply is a white brush at a large size to make it look like it's kind of a studio look to the photo itself. So we'll turn it on here and I'll give you an idea. So what I did is I traced along with the pen tool, made the selection around the windows, and what I did is I filled it with black, and then I used a large white brush to make this effect in the background. So select, we're gonna load the selection. I'm gonna show you exactly what that looks like. So here's the selection that I had made of the windshield itself. Now you're gonna notice one thing. If I do, let's just turn this off, and we'll turn off the windows. There is this portion of the, I guess of the A-pillar of the car that's on the right side of the car. I tried filling this in and then filling it in with the effect, but this is so dark, it actually looked kind of like a mistake. Like I forgot to actually select it. So I actually selected the whole thing. Really doesn't make much of a difference, because if I was to zoom in just a bit further, it wouldn't be visible anyway. So it looks really good, I find, with just having that A-pillar gone. But it's up to you, of course. If you wanted to select around there, you definitely can. But from experimentation and looking at the photo, I felt that without it, it probably looks a little better and much cleaner as well. Now, one thing when you're doing something like this and taking out the windshield, you're gonna lose some of the effects. Now, let's turn this off again. There's some of the effects in terms of a reflection. The good thing is there's not much reflection of the dash. That's great. But there are a couple things here, and you're gonna see there's kind of a reflection from the A-pillar, and there's also the speaker that's reflecting off the A-pillar on this side. So I wanted to add those back in to give it more of a realistic look to it. So here is the speaker, and what I did is I simply copied that from the original photo before I filled this in, and I placed it here. So it's really using the pen tool to go around the selection and copy and pasting that in, and then I just played around with the opacity a bit. And with the opacity on that, it just gives the reflection, it just remains in the photo, which adds to the realism of that effect. Next thing here is reflection. Now this is the A-pillar. I'm gonna turn this on and off. It's the same idea. It's using reflection that was in the original photo and just adding that back in. Now, is it exactly the same? No, it does add a little bit of effect. It's very, very minimal, but adding that does add to the realism of that photo. Next is what's called left light in this layer. Now, this is not really much. You can't really see it. It's actually up in this corner in the left. Not sure if you can see that on the screen, but it just adds a little bit of light. So a little bit of light leak on the side, and it's really, really minimal. And honestly, looking at this, I had to actually click it on and off quite a bit to figure out what I had done with that layer. So not the most important layer, but we do have that in there as well. Next was the door light, and you're gonna see there's a little bit of light that's on the door here. There's kind of a light within this little area. So I just wanted to accentuate that just a bit. So what I did is just simply make that a little brighter so it stands out a little more. Next, and I'm calling this layer Ice Light. Now, this layer here is Ice Light. If you're gonna see this reflection on the center column, looks good, but it doesn't continue all the way. And I wanted to fill that in because it was looking a little messy. So that's just using the pen tool to make a very fine selection, very small, and filling that in with the color that's either here or here, anything that's close, so we can get that in. So on and off, cleans that up, makes that a nice selection. And the final one was cleanup. Now I'm gonna click this on. You're not gonna see really anything because the interior was impeccable. It was very clean. I don't know if I took anything out. There may have been one little dot, maybe here in the middle, maybe on the side of the seat. But other than that, that was pretty much it. Really good. With the darkened kind of wheel well here, I didn't have to clean up anything that was on the mats or anything. It worked out quite well. And the final one is kind of just after we have all the layers together is adding a color balance, because the color balance itself with this photo itself, the way you're looking at it now, it's quite warm, and I just wanted to add a little bit of blue, a little bit of cool to the shadows. So that's the color balance. This is very small. If we're looking at this and the shadows, it's only +1. This color balance here, especially when you're playing around with the shadows, it doesn't take a lot for it to make an effect. So this is +1 to add a little bit of coolness to the shadows. And that's it. So that's the photo. That's how the layers I had used for this. I was using the Ulanzi, the small little light, for $35. It's a great little tool to have. Could have used the Ice Light, but really with something as compact as Ulanzi, as a little light wand, I'd really recommend picking one up just to have in your bag, because if you are out and you want to try it for exteriors, it's probably going to work pretty well. Probably won't be as good as a larger light, but Ulanzi itself does have some options of not only the small one, but they have some larger ones as well. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you again in the next one.